Growing up as a baby boomer was truly a unique experience filled with a mix of charm, discovery, and boundless adventure. Born between 1946 and 1964, this generation experienced a world undergoing rapid transformation. From the advent of rock and roll to the moon landing, there was no shortage of excitement. One of the most thrilling aspects was the freedom we had to explore. Unlike today's constantly connected world, baby boomers grew up in an era where outdoor play was the norm. We spent countless hours riding bikes and building forts and playing pickup games with the neighborhood kids. Our days were filled with the pure joy of discovery, from catching fireflies on warm summer nights, at least in this part of the country, to daring each other to explore the deepest parts of the nearby woods. Another highlight was the sense of community. Neighbors knew each other back then, and there was a collective effort to ensure that everyone felt included, at least where I lived. Block parties, barbecues, and community parades were common, fostering a strong sense of belonging and camaraderie. Television also began to play a significant role in our lives, bringing families together. Shows like Leave It to Beaver, one of my favorites, even to today, and The Andy Griffith Show, depicted idealistic portrayals of American life, while Star Trek, another favorite of mine, and The Twilight Zone, one I watched all the time when I could, opened our imaginations to new possibilities. Saturday mornings were reserved for cartoons, something my brother, sister, and I loved doing, I'm sure many of our friends back at that time. It was a time-honored tradition that many of us look back on with fondness, especially those Saturday morning cartoons. And let's not forget the music. The rise of rock and roll gave us legends like Elvis Presley, the Beatles, and the Rolling Stones. Music became a rebellious force, a way to express our individuality and challenge the status quo, although I wasn't really a rebel, I don't think, back in the day. I certainly wasn't into rock and roll, but some of the music was good. We gathered around record players, sharing the latest hits and dreaming of the future. Education, too, was undergoing a transformation. The post-war economic boom meant better schools and more opportunities. Many baby boomers were the first in their families to attend college, paving the way for new careers and innovations. In essence, growing up as a baby boomer was an exhilarating blend of freedom and community and innovation. It wasn't perfect, and we are not perfect, but it was a good time for us, challenges notwithstanding. It was a time when the world seemed full of endless possibilities and some scary things, and each day brought new adventures. Those formative years left an indelible mark on our hearts, shaping us into the individuals I believe we are today. Sounds good until you read a meme from a Gen Zer, or no, actually a Gen Zer, is that what it would be called? Who writes, "I love baby boomers who say, kids don't even know how to write cursive," and they say it in a negative way. He goes on to say, like you can do any better, Grandma. You can't even turn your laptop on without getting 6 viruses and wiring half your retirement money to a Nigerian prince. That's too funny. Sorry, I was laughing. Probably blew the line, but anyways, I thought that was funny. So kudos to the Gen Zer who posted that meme. Too funny. Okay, let's coffee break. Hello and welcome to Generation Talk, the podcast where we dive into the fascinating world of generational differences, exploring how each generation has shaped and been shaped by the times they live in. Today, we're delving into the distinct characteristics of baby boomers, Gen X, Millennials, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha. I didn't even know there was a Gen Alpha. So let's get started. Baby boomers, the pioneers of post-war prosperity. Born between 1946 and 1964, baby boomers grew up in an era of economic prosperity following World War II. This generation witnessed the rise of suburbia, the explosion of rock and roll, and the cultural shifts of the 1960s. They are known for their strong work ethic, loyalty to employers, and significant contributions to shaping modern society. Boomers saw the advent of television, the first home computers, and the early stages of the internet. They adapted to technological changes, but often prefer face-to-face communication. This generation values hard work, stability, and financial security. They experienced the Civil Rights Movement, the Vietnam War, and the moon landing, which greatly influenced their view of the world. Boomers are now facing retirement, healthcare issues, and the digital divide as they adapt to new technologies. Generation X, the independent thinkers. Generation X, born between 1965 and 1980, grew up during a time of shifting societal norms and economic uncertainties. Often referred to as the latchkey generation, they are known for their independence, resilience, and adaptability. Gen X witnessed the rise of personal computers, video games, and the internet. They are tech-savvy, very tech-savvy, and comfortable with both analog and digital technologies. This generation values work-life balance, entrepreneurial spirit, and skepticism towards authority. They were influenced by events like the fall of the Berlin Wall and the rise of MTV culture. Who doesn't remember MTV? Gen X faces challenges such as balancing careers and family responsibilities, financial stability, and adapting to the rapid pace of technological change. Millennials, the digital natives. Millennials, or Generation Y, born between 1981 and 1996. I think these are all when all my children were, my children are all millennials, are the first generation to grow up with the internet and digital technology as an integral part of their lives. They are known for their tech savviness, social consciousness, and desire for meaningful experiences. Millennials grew up with smartphones, social media, and instant access to information. They are highly connected and use technology to enhance their personal and professional lives. This generation values diversity, inclusivity, and environmental sustainability. They are influenced by events like 9/11, the Great Recession, and the rise of social media activism. Millennials face challenges such as student loan debt, job market uncertainties, and housing affordability. They are also navigating the balance between online and offline interactions. Next up, Generation Z, the social media savvy. Generation Z, born between 1997 and 2012, is the first generation to grow up with smartphones and social media from a young age. They are characterized by their digital fluency, entrepreneurial mindset, and strong desire for social change. Gen Z is adept at using various digital platforms and tools. They consume and create content on social media, often using it to drive social change and connect with like-minded individuals. This generation values authenticity, social justice, and mental health awareness. They are influenced by events like climate change activism, the Black Lives Matter movement, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Gen Z faces challenges such as navigating mental health issues, economic instability, and the pressures of social media. They are also dealing with the impact of a rapidly changing world. Next up, Generation Alpha, the future innovators. Generation Alpha, born from 2013 onwards, is the youngest and most digitally immersed generation yet. That's interesting. They are growing up in a world where technology is deeply integrated into everyday life, shaping their experiences and learning. Gen Alpha is surrounded by advanced technology from birth, including AI, virtual reality, and smart devices. They are highly intuitive with technology and are expected to drive future innovations. This generation is still forming its values, but early indications suggest a strong emphasis on sustainability, global awareness, and innovation. They are influenced by their Millennial and Gen Z parents. Gen Alpha will face challenges such as adapting to rapid technological advancements, addressing environmental concerns, and navigating a complex global landscape. Thanks for tuning in to Generation Talk. Each generation brings its own unique perspectives and contributions, to society, shaping the world in different and exciting ways. Join us next time as we continue to explore the fascinating dynamics of generational differences. Until then, do stay curious and keep the conversation going. One last thing. Each generation has positive and negative aspects to it. One is no less culpable than the other. While we may not agree or see eye to eye across generational lines, for example, while I'm not comfortable with using the F word in the way that other generations do, as if they purchased the right to use that consonant more times than I am able to bathe, I do my best to be respectful of each generation, learning where I can and using apologetics to explain, not necessarily to defend what we believe or I believe or accept as a generation. Whether we want to accept it as truth or not, we were where you are today, just as we are where our parents and grandparents were as we are today, a generation that is aging out. All right. Enough of that. Before we leave, what I like to call the best virtual coffee shop in America, I would like to share a story with you from a series of short stories I am writing with the help of AI, friends, and members of the church titled Coffee House Saints. Sister Joni, a character developed after my friend Joni, RCI, a coordinator at St. Thomas More Catholic Church in Tulsa, is part of a fictitious religious order known as the Sisters of Mercy in God's Service, or the Coffee House Sisters. They operate several coffee shops across the country with a mission to bring the gospel of love, mercy, and charity through the gift of service to one's neighbor, one cup at a time. The sisters' mission is to live in a world where neighbors think less of themselves and more about each other. In this particular story, Sister Joni receives a visit from her good friend, Sister Mary Alice, Director of Religious Education at Our Lady Queen of Peace Catholic Church. During their conversation, Sister Joni shares the story about the time Rita Heidrich, the parish choir director, invited a young man named John to join the choir. Coffee Breakers across America, the Carlos Michael Studio, and Coffee House Productions presents Coffee House Saints, Rita Heidrich, Faith and Song, a tale of rediscovery and harmony.
The Saints be praised. Coffee Shop was a haven for many seeking solace and community. Nestled in the heart of the bustling city, it offered a tranquil retreat where the aroma of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the soft hum of conversation and the occasional notes of a hymn sung gently in the background. Sister Joni sat at her favorite corner table, a peaceful smile gracing her lips as she sipped her cup of chamomile tea. Today was special. She was expecting a dear friend, Sister Mary Alice, Director of Religious Education at Our Lady Queen of Peace Catholic Church, located just down the street. Sister Mary was known for her joyful demeanor, love of education, and her melodious voice and ability to bring harmony not just to music, but to the lives of those around her. The bell above the door chimed softly as Sister Mary entered, her presence bringing a burst of warmth to the room. She spotted Sister Joni and made her way over, her eyes sparkling with the joy of their reunion. "Mary, it's wonderful to see you," Sister Joni greeted, rising to embrace her friend. "And you as well, Joni," Mary replied, her voice as soothing as a lullaby. "It's been too long since we've had a chance to catch up." They settled into their seats, the familiarity of their companionship easing them into comfortable conversation. They spoke of parish events, mutual friends, and the ever-present need for faith in their community. After a while, Sister Joni leaned forward, her curiosity piqued. "Mary, I've heard whispers about a young man named John who returned to the church and found his voice through song. Would you share his story with me?" Mary's eyes softened, a gentle smile playing on her lips. "Ah, John. His journey is truly inspiring. It all began a few years ago. John had been a quiet boy with a bright future. Raised in a devout Catholic family, he attended Mass regularly and participated in church activities. But as he grew older, the trials and tribulations of life began to weigh heavily on his shoulders. The loss of his best friend, struggles in school, and a growing sense of disillusionment led him to drift away from the church. He entered a period of rebellion, seeking solace in the wrong places and falling into the company of those who encouraged his wayward ways. His once radiant spirit became clouded with doubt and despair. One evening, as John wandered the streets aimlessly, he heard the faint sound of music drifting from Our Lady Queen of Peace. Drawn by the familiar hymns, he found himself standing outside the church, listening to the choir practice. The melodies stirred something deep within him, awakening memories of a time when his heart was filled with faith and hope. Intrigued and yearning for the comfort of his past, John took a tentative step inside. He somehow made his way to the coffee room after Mass, which is where Rita Hyde-Rich, our choir director, met him. He stood over her by at least 2 to 3 inches. Rita noticed him standing hesitantly at the back, and with that welcoming smile of hers, she gestured for him to come closer. That is when she said to him, "I feel that I should invite you to join the choir." John blinked in surprise, the unexpected invitation catching him off guard. He had been standing there, lost in the music and memories, and now here was Rita, urging him to step out of the shadows and into the light. His heart thudded in his chest, a mixture of excitement and profound reluctance battling within him. I'm not sure," he stammered, his voice barely above a whisper. The thought of joining the choir, of standing in front of people and singing, filled him with a deep-seated fear. He had spent so long drifting, his confidence eroded by life's hardships. Rita's smile was gentle, her eyes filled with understanding. "I know it might seem daunting, John, but I believe you have something beautiful to share, and the choir could be a wonderful place for you to start." He hesitated, his gaze dropping to the floor. Part of him yearned to grasp this lifeline, to reconnect with the faith and joy he once knew. Yet, the wounds of his past held him back, whispering doubts and insecurities into his ear. "Just think about it," Rita added softly, sensing his inner turmoil. "You don't have to decide now. But remember, we're all here to support one another." John nodded slowly, the weight of her words settling over him. He glanced around the room, at the faces of those gathered, and felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this was his chance to heal and find his way back. John began attending choir practices regularly, at first as an observer and gradually as a participant. Rita recognized the pain and potential within him and took him under her wing. She encouraged him to find his voice and to express his emotions through song. With each practice, John felt his burdens lift, the music becoming a conduit for his healing. He rediscovered the joy of singing and the peace that faith brought to his soul. The choir became his sanctuary, a place where he could reconnect with God and himself. One Sunday, during Mass, Rita asked John if he would be willing to sing a solo. Nervous but determined, he agreed. The song that Rita wanted John to sing was "How Great Thou Art." As he stood before the congregation, his voice trembling at first, he sang with a heartfelt intensity that moved everyone present. The hymn, a soaring tribute to God's grace, echoed through the church, resonating with the struggles and triumphs of his journey. The congregation, touched by his performance, surrounded John in the coffee room following Mass, thanking him for using his gift of song to move their hearts. John would often reply, "This is a gift that does not come from me, but from God, so it is Him that we should always be thanking, and maybe Rita Hyde-Rich, who followed her heart and invited me to sing with the choir. It was then that my faith returned, and God became present to me again." Stumped by his humility, many of the congregation offered encouragement and eventually shared their own stories of faith and redemption. John's transformation was profound. He became an active member of the church, using his experiences to mentor other young people who faced similar challenges. His faith, once lost, was now a beacon that guided him and inspired those around him. Mary's eyes glistened with pride as she finished recounting John's story. He found his voice and, in doing so, helped others find theirs. His journey is a testament to the power of faith, music, and community. Sister Joni nodded, her heart full. "Thank you for sharing that, Mary. It's a powerful reminder that no matter how far we stray, the path back to God is always open. And sometimes, we just need a little help finding our way." Mary reached across the table, taking Sister Joni's hand. Indeed, and it's through stories like John's that we see the profound impact we can have on each other's lives. They sat in companionable silence for a moment, the ambient sounds of the coffee shop wrapping around them like a comforting embrace. The Saints Be Praised coffee shop, with its warm atmosphere and sense of community, continued to be a place where stories of faith and redemption were shared and celebrated, one cup of coffee at a time.
I hope you enjoyed today's story. Don't worry, I have plenty more in the works. Remember to love God with all your everything, and that being a great neighbor is always better than being a good neighbor. When you see a need and can feel that need, don't think about it, just do it quietly and without drawing any attention to yourself, if possible. Until next time.